This is an interesting question. The subject of this question is, the title of the question is Delusion about Forced Retirement. My husband can accept generous retirement, rent, subsidized apartment, and 2 years of paid leave, or he will be fired since he physically evicted a student from his office. So he must be a teacher, maybe at a university. He physically evicted a student from his office. So they offer to him either generous retirement terms, rent, subsidized apartment, 2 years of paid leave, or he will be fired. So he can either go voluntarily. And now what happened was this. He behaves normally now. I think he is retired now. He behaves normally except for his delusional idea that he still works for the university. I don't know how to make him see reality. This is an interesting case of egoic delusion where a very clear fact is suppressed by the ego in order to avoid being injured in its ego identity, because the knowledge that he got sacked or was asked to leave, to his ego identity, which had identified with his position his whole lifetime, probably, almost certainly, identified with his social position, and the egoic identity, of course the social position, all that are just mental formations. So the social position, when that got taken away from him in a not flattering way, would have been very painful for the egoic identity. And this is a very, like a tradition case from a textbook of psychology, of Freud could have written about that as an example. So it was repressed for the ego, so it distorts reality in order to avoid feeling the pain, because the pain to the ego would lead to a breakup to some extent of the egoic self. So it's suppressed. So he leads a normal life except for one delusion, and that means he's still working at the university. He's not. And so the question is, again, it's not, I don't see a question, but I assume it's a question. I don't know how to make him see reality. I would not suggest that you immediately confront him and say, can't you see that you're no longer working there? Why can't you see that? That is dangerous. I would not recommend that, because the ego would react and it could even worsen it. This is not a case that I believe a good psychotherapist could perhaps lead him to a resolution by what I would do. I cannot tell you exactly what I would do with him if he came to me. Whether he would even come, I don't know, because he doesn't see that he has a problem. People who really need help, in many cases, don't know that they need help, so that becomes problematic. But if he did come, I cannot tell you exactly what I would do with him or say to him, because it needs to arise out of the reality of the present moment. But I would work on his sense of self, so that I would take his sense of self out of this narrow egoic pattern where he considers himself to be the university teacher or the professor. If I can take his sense of self out of that and realize there is a presence in him that is deeper than the narrow sense of self, once he can sense that presence, it will no longer be that painful to look at the reality of what happened to him. It's only when his entire sense of self is trapped in this narrow identity, it would be unbearably painful to look at the reality. So I wouldn't attack the delusion. I would expand his being to help him go deeper into himself, and once he's reached that, then we can look at, oh, you're not working there anymore, are you? Or whatever. So this is but since I'm not there, I believe a good psychiatrist may be able to, psychologist, I don't think, I wouldn't recommend any medication for this. I don't think in this case, medication would be very helpful, but awareness would.